Okay, we're recording. Welcome everyone to the 184th episode Campfire Treats, live from Dodge Nature Center with Pam and Mary. Um, so let's see here. I can't see any more notes that I need to cover with everyone.
I can grab it, Craig.
Go ahead.
So thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us for the 184th episode of the Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Series. We have an absolute beautiful day out there. Gosh, what you said. A good friend Pam. Talk about confident treats. Talked about the past big camping elements. So we thought this would be a really kind of fun time to get out and talk about campfires. And Pam, we can talk about campfire safety a little bit too. So I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Pam Lesvich, and this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Mary Dibbig.
And like Benji said, we're here at Dodge Nature Center where we're going to talk about some campfire treats. Like he said, with MEA coming up, it's one of the most popular camping times for lots of families. And so we're going to give you some hopefully fun hints and ideas to enjoy while you take that trip to the nearest park. So why campfire cooking? Well, number one, it's an awful lot of fun. The other thing is, a lot of times when you're actually at a campground, it's sort of the only game in town. You might not, of course, bring a stove or a refrigerator or any of the luxuries we have in our own homes. So cooking on an open fire is lots of fun as well as a necessity. Now, we also want to stress safety. We're lucky today that the wind has died down, but you always want to think about fire safety while cooking over a campfire. A lot of wind, dry brush around is an absolute no-no. So make sure that you've got the proper conditions for lighting a fire. The other thing that you want to think about is food safety. So always make sure that you're cooking your food thoroughly. An easy way to do this is buy a cheap thermometer at any grocery store in order to ensure that you've properly cooked your food. Another thing as well is when you're done with any leftovers, try to get it into a refrigerated spot like a cooler or something of that sort. Enjoying it as leftovers later on will be wonderful as long as it hasn't spoiled. What we're going to share with you today are a few different methods of cooking. We're going to actually use a Dutch oven, which is part of the cast iron series. There's quite a lot of cast iron that you can buy. I would suggest if you've got a Dutch oven, you're probably great. It's a little bit heavy, so it's not great if you're going into the boundary waters or backpacking, but for car camping, it's an absolute necessity. You can also get frying pans. There's little molds that you can use. So there's a whole variety of different cast iron. And talk to any different person and they will tell you how to treat it. I actually have a friend that uses soap and water on their cast iron, which makes some of my other friends recoil in horror. So do the research and do what's comfortable for your own family. We're also going to share something that we can cook on a grill today. We're going to show you some things you can cook on forks. A lot of times that's really fun for the kids. And we're going to share a few ideas of direct heat cooking, where you're actively putting the food right into the fire. So we'd also like to share a few hints. There are a lot of things to make campfire cooking a lot easier when you get on site. My number one suggestion is prepare a lot of the food at home. You can marinate your meat in a plastic bag, put it in a cooler, and then just retrieve it when you arrive at the site. You can also prepare things like egg bakes, etc., casseroles, that all you'll need to do is pour into the container that you're putting on the fire. So prepping beforehand is an absolute must. Something else I would suggest is aluminum foil. It is the camper's absolute number one necessity. It can be used to cook, it can be used to reheat, it can be used to store. So having a couple of containers of tinfoil in your campfire bin is an absolute must. Some other helpful hints are cooking spray will make a lot of your work a little bit easier. And just those general things about pre-cutting, preparing, and getting some stuff pre-done before you arrive on site. Things about the fire. Always remember, a fire takes a few minutes to get started. And most of the time while cooking, you're not going to want to cook on a huge blaze. So you want to make sure you're allowing time for that fire to pull back so you're doing most of your cooking over nice hot coals, not a blazing, roaring flame. So remember to start earlier than you think you're probably going to have to. Especially if camping with children, they can be very impatient. So you want to make sure when the food starts, it's going to cook quickly. Another little thing is bigger is not necessarily better. You don't need those big flames. You're going to want that fire to die down so you're cooking over the nice hot coals. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to share a couple of ideas that we've tried. They come out pretty quickly, pretty easily, and you can try them anytime on your own. We'll also give some suggestions for different ideas using these types of cooking, these methodologies. So let's get started with a Dutch oven. So as you can see, this Dutch oven has a nice heavy top. It's a very sturdy cooking utensil. And I do like the ones with the little feet. So if you're thinking about purchasing one, I would suggest spending the few extra dollars and get one with the feet. It will be a little bit sturdier in the fire and you'll have less risk of your entire dinner tipping into the flames. Another thing that I would suggest is always keeping a fire grate in your camp supplies. This will ensure a lot easier for placement on the coals. So we're going to add that to our fire so that we can have a nice flat cooking surface. So Mary's putting that on our coals. Our fire's a little high for what we would technically want, but we're going to roll with it today. Now, for the cobbler, and with a lot of things, again, lining your cooking utensil with foil will make cleanup much easier. So we've lined the Dutch oven with foil. And then you can do any kind of batter for the cobbler. We're going to make a cherry cobbler in this. So we're going to make a dessert in our Dutch oven today. All we've got is a can of any flavor fruit that you desire. Apple, peach, blueberry. We grabbed cherry. So we're just dumping that can into the bottom of the Dutch oven that's been pre-lined with aluminum foil.
And this is one of my favorite treats.
This is a good one. And kids can help with this activity as well. It's a fairly safe thing to be doing. Just remember, children around a fire, you always want to keep an eye on them. Oh, it looks delicious. I could eat that can myself, just fresh. Now, what we've done is a very, very simple batter. If you have a favorite from your grandma or from your parents, any kind of batter will do. All we did was use a all-inclusive pancake batter. We just made it a little thicker than you would normally for pancakes. So it's almost just going to drop by rounded tablespoons, teaspoons onto the fruit filling. So Mary's just going to start putting dollops of batter right onto the filling. Don't have to mix anything. Again, if you have this batter pre-made, it might make things easier, but the all-inclusive pancake batters are really quite user-friendly. If you have access to water, you should be fine. There it goes.
What time's lunch today, Pam? How long is this going to take?
Well, we're going to do a little bait and switch here. So I would let this cook probably about half an hour to 40 minutes once we put the lid on, and then it can just sit. If it's in the direct coals, there's a wonderful chart online, coal conversion. You can actually take the coals from the bottom of the fire, set them on top of the Dutch oven, and depending on how many coals you're using, it will regulate the heat to the equivalent of 350 in an oven, 400 in an oven. I'm kind of a wing it kind of girl, so we're just going to put the right on top of the coals here. So we're going to let that go. A few other ideas to use in a Dutch oven is you can make wonderful breakfasts. Things that I have made are breakfast casseroles. Anything you can make in a sort of a pan that you would place in your oven can be made in a Dutch oven. So an egg bake comes out fantastic. A French toast casserole will come out delicious. So those are fabulous breakfasts. You can even just fry up eggs and bacon in there as well. For lunches, we've done an assortment of fun activities. I've made pizza, just putting dough into the bottom, adding whatever kind of red sauce you like, your cheese. And I'm a cheese girl, but my husband would just not be satisfied if there wasn't some kind of pepperoni on there. You can also make nachos. Again, by lining that bottom with the foil, your nachos can just be pulled right out and they're fabulous. For dinner, almost anything can be made in there. Any one of your homemade family soup recipes comes out wonderful in a Dutch oven. I've had stew, again, pre-prepping the meat and the vegetables. So all you need to do is pop everything in. And even chicken and dumplings comes out delicious in there. Ah, there's our,
Looks amazing.
so there's our finished product, the magic of television or webinars.
And this lining is going to make this so easy to pull everything out and clean up when you're done. And that's just going to make your life so much easier while you're camping. So getting that foil lining in there is a must.
And Mary's actually grabbing this because this one has been cooled, but don't forget hot pads.
Yes.
Anything you're retrieving from the fire is going to be very hot. So remember keeping that safety in mind, especially if kids are involved.
And you may not want your nicest pattern hot pads. You can see this one is our designated fire hot pad. So this is the one that we always use when we're going to cook over the fire. This one is nice. It's got the silicone lining that can be a helpful extra barrier to that heat, especially those flames. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your fire hot pad.
Your hot pad. And those are things that are great to just keep in a bin. If you're an avid camper, just having a nice bin designated to car camping and campfire cooking works wonderful. Keep the foil in there, keep the hot pads, keep all those little utensils that you're happy using while you're cooking over the fire. That way, every time you set out to head to a campground, you're not frantically running around your house looking for all these utensils. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to try a different method. This also involves cast iron. Again, big fan of cast iron. So what we're going to do is make a breakfast over the campfire by using a frying pan that's made of cast iron. So Mary's going to grab the frying pan. You can get these in almost any size imaginable. A friend of mine has one, and it's literally bigger than a garbage can lid. And so she was a big camper with large groups, and she could make up a breakfast for a dozen people in about an hour on this cast iron. So Mary's moving the Dutch oven, and we're going to add our griddle. Again, these get extremely hot on an open fire like that. So don't forget to use those hot pads. This again, all we did was take a batter that's add water only. When camping, you want it to be as streamlined and easy as possible. And we just prepared it in advance. In a nice container would work well. And then all you'll need to do is pour the batter onto the griddle.
Might need a little bit of some non-stick.
Foil. Yeah, you always want to like on this, if you're not using foil, I would probably go with oil or spray. My husband would argue it has to be oil. I'll argue it should be spray.
The age-old argument.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, he's full on fat. And for me, everything's low cal. So we'll
Honestly,
do that.
I err on the side of a little bit too much.
Too
oil,
much, absolutely.
just because you'll be sad when your pancakes are stuck to your griddle.
Yeah, you don't want
tend to
things
agree with-
sticking.
I tend to agree with Don that fat part, so I fry my bacon first and then the
And then that's a great idea. If you actually are having bacon or sausage, do that first. Then you've got the pre-greased griddle all set to go for your pancakes or French toast. So we'll just throw a few of these on here so you can see how easy it is to prepare a quick breakfast. I know people can't smell it, but the fire smells fantastic. The cobbler smells fantastic. So it's always a great, such a wonderful smell when you're out camping and you light that fire to start cooking your food. And for me, even if it gets a little burnt, that's almost part of the fun of campfire cooking. It's just got a little tinge around the edge, and I think it can actually enhance your meal rather than detract from it. Oh, looking good.
When I was a kid, Pam, we had burgers on the beach for 4th of July every year. I was probably 15 before I realized burgers weren't supposed to have sand in them. So it adds to the
It's
food.
true. There's certain places where food should taste a certain
Well,
way.
camp seasoning. Mhm.
But you can see they're starting to bubble up. The pancake is starting to cook. Within a few minutes, breakfast will be on the table. Oh, look at that. Again, a spatula is a must. So another one of those tools to keep in your campfire bin would be a spatula. Maybe even a few.
Oh, that looks amazing.
Ooh.
See if we can get this little mini one.
And the baby.
The baby pancake.
Again, everything can come in a container. You can have the batter pre-mixed, have a container of maple syrup right next to it, and voila, you've got a great, easy breakfast. What we didn't make was coffee. We should have had coffee on the fire.
Now, when you make coffee over the fire, Pam, do you strain it through a sock like a real cowboy?
So I do not. I do not. To be honest, I'm an instant coffee drinker, so that's kind of funny.
For
So
camping
all I need
too.
all I need to do is boil water. But there's a cornucopia of different kinds of coffee machines that you can get to go on the fire. So depending on how much of a coffee snob you are, you can really go all out. So that's one idea for cooking on a griddle. That was a breakfast. You can also do French toast, of course, fry eggs, even make a breakfast quesadilla. For lunch on this grill, we've done things like pizza again, just using a flatbed bread or a pita, or even a tortilla is a wonderful way to make pizza on the grill. The kids, if they're there, can add their toppings, and it's a really fun way to spend lunchtime. We've made quesadillas, we've made crepes, we've even made grilled cheese on this. So there's a lot of things, anything you would make on the stove top at home can be made on a cast iron griddle out over the fire. So it's another one that I feel should be in your toolbox of campfire tools. Mary's going to finish up that batter. We'll let that one go. I think Benji's hungry for some hungry for some from breakfast for lunch is always a good thing.
Lunch.
Always hungry for breakfast or lunch.
One might even say brunch.
Run, yes.
Of course. There's a whole industry out there that thrives on
Eggs, a couple slices of
breakfast for
bacon.
lunch. Absolutely.
When you're talking about the tin foil or aluminum foil, the one thing I've used that for really well too is crumple up into a ball and use it for cleaning the pan out.
Oh,
Yes, a lot of people will say that's how to clean your cast iron.
Yep.
So, again, I have heard numerous arguments on how to care for cast iron. Some people believe never should water touch it. Other people are fine with a little water and scraping it out. And then, like I said, I actually have a friend who uses soap and water and has had his cast iron for years. As long as you sort of cure it again with the oil over the fire, he seems to think that that works just fine. So, my husband does not use soap, so we're proponents of just cleaning it out.
Yeah.
So while that's getting a little crispy over the fire, we'll share another method of cooking. Let's go to direct heat. So direct heat is something that you can use if you don't have a lot of this expensive, nice, fancy cookware. Again, tin foil is your friend. Aluminum foil is a magic friend when you're at a campfire site. You can cook numerous things directly in the fire. We're actually just going to throw a potato in and let it cook by wrapping the potato in the foil, placing it in the coals. You'll get a nice crispy outside, and the potato inside will steam till it's finished. You can do the same thing with corn on the cob. You can actually put garlic bread right into the flame, wrapped in aluminum foil.
As simple as
Veggies and something called, I think they used to call it hobo stew. We call it campfire stew, but you can put any kind of meat, vegetables, potatoes, seasoning,
flames always where you're
all just wraps
once you find
in the
spot.
aluminum foil, tuck it into the coals, and about a half an hour later, you'll be enjoying a delicious treat.
Right in to
So
those
we're just
flames.
going to throw that in there. That's all you need to do. Wrap it in the foil, toss it in the coals, turn it a few times with some tongs, and within about 30 to 40 minutes, you should have a nice treat for people to enjoy. Again, doesn't take a lot of effort, very easy. Kids can wrap up their own meal, tuck it into the coals, and then probably with a grown-up's help, pulling it out. And then you don't even really need plates. You can eat it right out of the foil. We've done this numerous times with students here at the Nature Center. And again, even if they're a little crispy, the kids seem to love it. So it's one that goes over really well. At my house, we do garlic bread on the fire. Crazy thing that you can even do is salad over the fire. If you take a nice head of romaine, cut it in half, brush it with olive oil, and a minute or two on each side over the grate on the grill, pull it off, put some Parmesan cheese and lemon juice on it. Delicious salad over a campfire. So there's nothing that can't be cooked on the campfire. Well, maybe ice cream. All right, the last thing we're going to share method is tongs, a fork type thing. This you can do numerous things as well. So most people think about roasting a marshmallow, and you can get these fancy store-bought forks that you can use. But of course, a lot of kids just enjoy going out into the woods and finding their own stick. With a little bit of help, sharpening the point, and you've got a great cooking tool. Now, we can cook lots of different things on here. We'll give you a few ideas. We have done cinnamon rolls for breakfast. Just line them up on the stick, placing them on neatly, and slowly rotating them over the fire They'll come out delicious. Something you can do for lunch would be any kind of kebab. Remember, prepping before you arrive at the campsite would be great for that. Add the veggies, add the meat, add anything you'd like, and grill it over the fire. Mary's doing something very simple, a good old-fashioned marshmallow. Kids can do this and will do this for hours. And then something you can make for dinner is sausage wrapped in a crescent roll, hot dogs wrapped in a crescent roll, and gently rotate over the fire as well. So you've got a dinner or a lunch, or actually a delicious breakfast with the cinnamon rolls.
One thing I will say about cooking on a stick like this, when you have, especially kids doing this, they will tend to hold it like downwards, pointed towards the coals. And that's where you end up with your treat slipping off the end here and into the coals, which isn't ideal. So what you want to encourage your roasters to do is to kind of hold at an upward angle over those coals so that gravity is working with you to keep that on the stick rather than against you and having it fall in. So finding a spot where you can kind of thing, and like this stick is nice, it's got this little curve to it, so I can kind of hold it close and still have it a little bit curved upwards, and that is super helpful. And then you're looking for that, ooh, we're starting to get a little bit of golden brown on that marshmallow. Patience will get you that caramelization, that golden brown. But of course, if you're somebody, when I was a kid, I always loved the burnt marshmallows. Maybe that's you. Then you do you.
The age-old argument, burnt or golden brown.
Delicious.
And so Mary's doing a great job, but she's right. We can't tell you how many things we've lost into the fire. So maybe a little demonstration for kids is a great way to start when roasting. A quick hint on s'mores, which we know most people enjoy at a campfire, is if you don't want to love all the ingredients, we've actually found that fudge stripe cookies, the chocolate fudge stripe cookies, work really well for kids. You don't have to worry about breaking graham crackers, breaking the chocolate up. All the kids need to do is roast the marshmallow, put it between the two fudge stripe cookies, and you've got a perfect s'more. It's a lot easier than lugging all the other stuff. So just a little hint if you care to try that. She's doing a great job here. Mary, I'm so proud of the way you're roasting that marshmallow.
Thanks, Pam.
We always tell kids, if it drops on the ground, you've got 5-second rule anyway to get it back in the fire. So fire usually will take care of a lot of germs.
There we go. We're starting to get a side.
There we go.
Then I pulled off the burnt side, which is the nice thing about marshmallows. You can, if you do burn it and you didn't want that, just pull off the burnt part and roast the rest of the marshmallow.
But our fire now is at a really good cooking spot. That's wonderfully hot coals. You're probably not going to set things on fire by cooking over this nice hot heat,
brown.
and you're not having to worry about flames. So again, remember that bigger is not better when it comes to cooking over fire, and to start your fire early so that by the time you're ready to cook, your fire is going to be compatible with everybody's appetites.
Yum. I love
All right.
marshmallow.
I know, me too. How are we doing for time? Do we have time for questions?
I think we're doing real good.
Okay,
I
great.
have to add the fudge stripe cookies to my
Yeah.
grocery shopping list for camping this weekend.
They work amazing.
Yeah, we've
Kids
really
love it.
found with kids, it works really easy because, first of all, there's not nearly as much trash. And we've been shocked at how many kids can't like figure out how to break the graham cracker and put the chocolate on. So
It helps give kids a little bit of independence. More.
So we've enjoyed that. It's sort of our go-to now when making s'mores. As long as you're not picky about your chocolate. If you're picky about your chocolate, well, then you're making a grown-up s'more. And that's a little bit different than when working with kids over a campfire. All right, we got any questions for us?
Putting on my headset to see if we have any questions. If anybody does have any questions,
Hopefully we can answer them.
and we will get to them when we can.
Or shares. We love shares. If someone has something that they enjoy doing over a campfire, we're always willing to add it to our repertoire.
Hey, Benji, this is Jeff. I did put in the,
Get all the way into the camera there.
into the chat some fire restriction data information. So
Be able to.
folks know, I think everybody's aware that we've had a
Jeff,
lot
you're
of
muted.
dry weather. So make sure you check out before you do a campfire, any kind of fire, the most latest burning restrictions. So I listed those on our in the chat so people can see those websites and quickly find out what burning restrictions might be in the state. There is some currently up in the northeast part of the state.
So, yeah, I mentioned when I was a kid, you know, we used to do a fair amount of camping on the beach a lot. We lived not too far from the Mississippi River. So yeah, sand and food is always a thing in my family. But I love this baked potato idea. The Dutch oven, I would argue with you, running kids into the boundary waters, it's worth the wait.
With the Dutch oven?
The Dutch oven.
Hey, Craig, can you hear Benji at all?
Well, it appears we're having some technical difficulties with the sound down there. I did send a message down to the team, so hopefully they can get that up and going. Did you do much campfire cooking as a kid, Jeff?
We did a lot, you know, get the opportunity. We had to go to the lake to visit family, whatever is always can't beat those lakeside campfires, right? Especially with roasting marshmallows and making s'mores.
Oh yeah.
So everybody heard that I mentioned about the fire restrictions that are in place right now. So good. Yeah, we'll wait and see if they can hear us, but I'm not sure what happened, but maybe we can tackle some of these questions. Have you ever tried using a ceramic Dutch oven, and how well has it worked?
I have not. I always had the cast iron one that we used for baking or stews or chilies or whatever we were going to do. I'd be afraid to drop it and have crack it at the fire pit, you know.
Yeah, I know, you know, ceramics are made from fire or, you know, through, you know, pottery type of fire making, I think, or curing. So I would imagine that would work, right? Just the way that they're constructed, that would probably work as a Dutch oven. So Ben had a really good question about what type of wood and fuel would you be using for a fire? That's a really good question.
You know, it kind of depends on where you're at. Up north here in the boundary waters and surrounding area, we have a lot of pine, and the heat that you get off pine is really good. Roasting over freshly burning pine, you can get kind of a little pine taste in your food from the smoke. But once the coals form up, I mean, you got a really good hot fire that'll last a good long time. I imagine down in your area, you probably have a lot more oak,
Yeah,
deciduous type trees.
the harder woods are going to give you a hotter fuel or a hotter fire. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you want a hotter fire, you want to go with the more hardwoods. Benji, I think we heard something coming from you. Can we hear you now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep,
We
you're
can.
back.
Okay. Yeah, my earbud phone seems to be working. So I saw a question in the Q&A, Pam, about wrapping bananas in foil and using them.
Banana boats.
Banana boats, yeah.
Banana boats are fun. We have tried some things with kids that we've had better luck than others. Banana boats seem to be great. You can, of course, wrap them in the foil, another dessert or breakfast, adding chocolate chips, adding other fruit. Would probably steer away from whipped cream when putting it into the fire. You can add that after. Peanut butter, I've seen people put into the banana boats as well. Nutella,
Very good.
those work really well. One thing that we've tried, and it seems to appear in just about every campfire cooking book, is orange brownies. We have struggled with that one. What you'll do is peel an orange, getting the peel as intact as you can, and you fill it with brownie mix. And then that can go into the fire as well. We have found kids seem to struggle with that. So that would be something that I would recommend for maybe teen and above.
You need
the-
patience for
you
that.
need a lot of patience. And so it tastes delicious if you're able to achieve it. But it is one that you'll see everywhere, but the practicality is a little bit more challenging. I would definitely go for the banana boat over the orange brownie, just because. Baked apples are another one that you can put into the tin foil. That's a great breakfast, snack, dessert. All you need to do is I like to core my apple. Again, something you could do before. And then a little bit of butter, a little bit of brown sugar, wrap that in tin foil and put that into the coals. Delicious. It will be a fabulous and healthy snack for kids around the campfire.
Jeff, how's the audio now? Are you hearing Pam all right?
Yeah, it's good. Another on this dessert theme, someone asked or suggested that you can just add a dry cake mix to the pie filling and top that with chunks of butter. Apparently, that's a great Scout favorite.
Adding dry
Cake.
cake mix to the top with a little bit of butter, you said?
To the toddler.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've actually done it that way, and that works great. Then there's even less prep, and it comes out really good. The moisture in the fruit compote, and then by steaming it with the top on, cooks the cake mix really quite well. So we have done that. We do have one more thing that we were going to show that I think is pretty unique. This is a really fun dessert. It is a little messy, and it is getting harder to find coffee cans. But if you have an old coffee can at home, you can make a delicious, fun Rice Krispie treat in the coffee can. So all you need to do is take a stick of butter, put it in the bottom of the coffee can, add about half a package of mini marshmallows. Minis will melt a little bit easier than the large ones. If all you have is large, I'm sure it would work. This was a new one for me a couple years ago, and it's really quite fun. That's probably good because we want to make sure that it'll come out. And then just good old fashioned Rice Krispies. Just fill that to the top. And shockingly, with a few stirs, it will come out like Rice Krispie treats. Now, it won't look pretty. It's not going to be a nice, neat squares. You'll kind of get nice big chunks and clumps out, but it tastes quite good and is really very easy. And we'll just let that sit there for a few moments. And as the butter and the marshmallows actually heat, this makes a really fun dessert. Kids can just, after washing their hands, reach in and grab a handful and enjoy a fun, unique Rice Krispie treat. Yeah, this was a new one on us a few
This
years
is a new
ago.
one for me too.
Yeah,
I like
and we
this.
kind of liked it. The only challenge is it is getting harder and harder to find coffee cans because a lot more things are coming in plastic. So you've got an opportunity to get a hold of cans, grab them.
Hey, one thing I've done in the past is food service. If you have a connection with food service cans,
Ah, there's
Big-
a good
a
way
big
to get
can
it.
of peaches or something like that, they're usually
That's a good thing of getting.
Just-
Yep.
just
And that
make
would,
sure that they don't have the lining in them, like the plastic lining.
yes, but that would work great. Those would work terrific. So yeah, for a while we were collecting coffee cans, baby food jars. The other thing that's gone by the wayside is film canisters. We use
Yes.
film canisters for everything here, and they're not existing anymore. So this is a really easy dessert for kids to try as well.
If you have the patience, one thing I've done with kids too is try to get them to make. You can make a hard-boiled egg like on a stick.
Ah,
You take an egg and poke a hole in the bottom and the top, and stick a stick in there, and try to get them to do that over the fire. Takes a lot of patience. And in a brown paper bag, also, you just put some bacon in there, or just crack eggs in there, and try to get them to cook it over a fire.
yum.
It takes a little bit, and
Well,
it takes a little practice, so they don't light the bag on
I
fire.
think that's the key. What you're suggesting is patience. When cooking on a fire, patience is definitely a virtue. Because if you try to rush things, you'll either have them not cooked thoroughly or burnt. And so you really, really, really need to look at the cooking part as the activity. You know, when sitting around a campfire, that's part of what you're doing is prepping your meals and your food. And so that's part of the fun for the adults and the kids, hopefully.
Different levels of campfire cooking. So
It's true. You know, some people can go all gourmet. I'm definitely one that's easier, streamlined. Let's do that. But you can really go all out. And there's so many resources out there for you to get wonderful recipes, whether you want to go easy and cheap, fancy and gourmet. You can go the whole gamut is out there for people to look for. Is it starting to melt?
one of the things
Starting to.
Yep.
both had some experience in the boundary waters. And one of the things I like to do, my kids love pancakes. So instead of bringing a box of pancakes, I will put like a daily portion in a plastic bag, and then just pour water in there. So just right on there, pancake mix, 1.5 cups of water.
Yep.
Put 1.5 cups of water in there and just mix it right in the bag.
Yep.
And then
Again,
it's just one less dish.
Yep. Pre-prepping a lot of that food just makes your life so much easier when you're actually cooking over a campfire on a campsite. In your backyard, you can run inside, you know, and get any utensil you need. But when you're actually out there, it really helps to have things pre-prepared. All right, it's starting to melt. Again, patience. It takes a few minutes, but it's kind of a fun thing for kids to do and then to enjoy when it finally finishes.
Jeff, do you have any other questions from the audience there?
I've got a couple more, Benji.
Yeah, go, Craig.
Jennifer said, I've used a non-cast iron Dutch oven, just need to check the max heat for that Dutch oven to make sure it's okay. Gail.
Benji's got it. See, it's
wanted-
starting to melt. It's actually starting to look, you know, a lot of people make Rice Krispie treats nowadays in the microwave. And so this is just a variation on the theme: over the stove, in the microwave, over the campfire.
I gotta say, one of my favorite treats is Rice Krispie treats. So
Me too.
I'm pretty excited about this.
Craig was saying there that can't read her name here.
Jennifer.
Jennifer was using a non-cast iron Dutch oven. She said just make sure to watch the heat index.
Okay.
Look at the directions and make sure you don't exceed the heat.
So a ceramic one?
I'm assuming that's what she's talking about.
Yes.
So again, yeah, just watch the heat. You could probably go with a little bit higher heat with the cast iron versus the ceramic Dutch oven. But I think over low coals, there's no reason why a Dutch oven that's made of ceramic would not work.
Jenna had a question there too about some ideas or suggestions for backpacking specifically. So you're not going to carry a Dutch oven
Right.
or stuff. A coffee can you can carry with you because you can pack a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
Which is a great thing, just space-wise to carry with.
Yes.
But
So backpacking does, you are going to have to downsize on some things. You know, I still would really enjoy a frying pan while backpacking. Again, a lot of things that foil would be a necessity because I think a lot of my dinners and lunches and things would be made in foil because that's very light to carry. Stick, a lot of the stick things, you know, hot dogs, sausages on a roasting stick would work really well. Backpacking for me would probably limit the Dutch oven.
A little bit, yeah.
It's great for car camping, but if you're carrying that kind of weight on your back, you you better be an Olympic weightlifter because for me that just wouldn't fly. So you would have to streamline what you were making. Obviously, you probably couldn't get quite as exotic as you can with a Dutch oven, but there are many other opportunities and methods that you could use that would taste great while
There's
backpacking.
There's some great books. I know Noel's put one out too, and one of my favorite recipes for backpacking trips was making like beans or in
Oh yeah.
and use my Nalgene bottle. I pour the beans in there and then fill it up with water, so the beans are the constant while we're backpacking. So just with the weight of the water bottle, so I don't have to carry it the whole time, but
Just when you get there.
just when you get there, so they would hydrate over the
Well,
day.
a lot
while
of
you're
the
there, and then
hydrated
cook.
stuff is great. I mean, there's delicious pre-hydrated foods out there nowadays. I think it's good done or the like boring just stew. I mean, you can get chicken cordon bleu and
All kinds of good stuff.
And
Parmesan. Yeah,
if you have a food dehydrator, you can also make your
amazing.
own packs of like just add
This is true.
water, dehydrated
you
food
can.
for backpacking.
because that is running into a little bit more expense if you're going that route, but making your own is a great way to take it. And then all you need to do is hydrate when you get there, which you can have an amazing assortment of great food. So another
You
good
look
way
at
of doing
that.
it. There we
Those
go.
Rice Krispies, those are looking
Look at that. Isn't it crazy?
wonderful.
Delicious.
Perfect. Mary, you did a good job cooking it
Oh.
too.
Thank you.
I will admit I have burnt this dish numerous times.
That might be pretty
I'm
close to
not
time
the
to
most
take this
patient
off.
cook, but if you have the patience and you're willing to keep an eye on it, you'll do just great.
Benji, can you hear me, Benji?
I can hear you, Jeff.
Let's talk about time of the year. I don't think folks a lot of times think about winter is an excellent time actually to do some campfiring or putting out food and stuff. You can still do it when it's cold, right?
Yeah, Jeff was talking about doing stuff over the winter.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be out around the fire, and it's a good way to get a hot fire and then get close to it while you're cooking, so you're staying warm. And it's the challenge I have. I think one of my first winter camping trips ever, I brought the old tin cups that you used to buy at like Fort Snelling gift shop or whatever,
Yep.
and stuff gets cold so fast.
Very, very quickly.
So if you're doing winter camping or cooking in the winter, use something like a ceramic bowl or a thicker plastic bowl that'll
Keep the heat.
keep the
longer.
heat in there a lot. I would eat almost everything out of like an old plastic insulated coffee mug like you buy at a gas station.
Oh, great idea.
Soups, oatmeal, even pancakes. I just crumple them up and throw them in there, and then everything kind of stays warm a little extra longer.
And then all you're needing is again a lot of water. Yeah, winter camping is definitely something to be enjoyed. It is a little bit does have different challenges. Like you said, keeping your food hot can be a little bit more challenging. So you are eating a little quicker. It might not be as long an activity extended, but there's no reason to shy away. You can take a lot of the same food and cook it in the winter as you would. I probably go for a lot more soups, stews, and things like that would hold heat for a little longer than something like a sausage or a hot dog over the stick. So just something to keep in mind.
Do you have any other questions, Jeff?
Well, we did have a suggestion from Jennifer. She said homemade ramen packets with dehydrated veggies are great for backpacking, so a lightweight option. And then I think you might have touched on this at the beginning, but can we talk about a little bit about the size of the campfire?
Oh, the size of the campfire?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, we're not a big fan of huge. You obviously don't want huge flames while approaching a fire to cook. So starting it early, getting it going, and then letting it die down. I really enjoy sort of something like this. So the average campfire ring in a lot of the parks is absolutely perfect to cook dinner for, a family of, 4, 5, 6 people. If you start to get into bigger groups, you might need to add, campfire rings. But something like this would easily cook enough food for half a dozen people for a dinner, lunch, or breakfast. So I think that would be just fine. And we've got this down now to coals. We're starting to sort of die down, but you want to see that glowing coal, and that's how you want to prep for that. Again, don't forget food safety. Make sure you're cooking thoroughly, cooking things according to direction, and then when finished, make sure you're storing it properly as well, just so that you don't get any sort of illness due to improperly prepared food. So be nice.
Yeah, and then Benji, I'm glad you mentioned that some of these canned, especially it seems like vegetables nowadays have a plastic liner in them. So in the old days, you could safely like cook baked beans, which is a big favorite, but you have to be careful about that now these days, right?
Yeah, very much
Yep.
so. For me, to transport vegetables, well, I would love fresh. Just chop them up, freeze, put them in a bag, and then retrieve them when we got to the campsite.
You wanna
But
lift that
the
one
other
up
thing
too,
you
and I'll
can
show
do if
you.
you don't want to chop a lot of stuff is buy frozen and then put that into a bag. And then you can just actually use that in your cooler to keep things cold until you're ready to use those frozen vegetables. So that's another option, because do beware of those plastic liners. You know, they're infiltrating in many different ways. So be aware of them.
Thank you. Craig, did you have any other questions? Did we miss any?
I don't see any new questions, so I think we got all those covered. Just a reminder to tune in next week for episode 185, Bobcats with John Erb, one of our research scientists here at the DNR. So that should be a real entertaining show.
Yeah, I just popped the link to that in the chat. So if you want to check out all of our upcoming programs, Craig, you and I are going to do a great program in a couple of weeks. Anyone that's been out deer hunting and wants a few more tips and suggestions, please join us. We've got lots of experience and we'll tell you everything we know. Hopefully that will help.
If not, it could be entertaining.
Yeah, right.
It'll at least be entertaining.
That sounds like fun.
Well, thank you, Jeff and Craig, for being back and keeping our technology somewhat running. I apologize for the audio blip out there, but I think where everything's going. Pam, I want to thank you and Mary so much for joining us today and talking about this great topic. I hope everybody gets out. It's supposed to be another beautiful weekend out this weekend and next weekend, hopefully for MEA. So get out, you practice in the backyard, maybe get out camping this fall and enjoy some good food around the campfire. There's nothing better than getting outside and having the smell of the campfire and making food with friends and family. So
Thanks for having us, and everybody have a great fall break. And like Benji said, get out camping.
Thanks, everyone.
Just so we can disconnect. You put us in the back room.